Thank you everyone for joining our May 2nd webinar to talk about our experience taking our PMBIA Level 2 AIR course. And so essentially, this course is just our coach's experience taking the Level 2 AIR. And so we're here to gather around together, and the panelists, which I will shout out, will talk about their experiences. And I know the people that are on this call, some of them do have their Level 2 and higher. So you will also be an asset to this call as well. So thanks for jumping on. This is a whole new experience for me of putting together this webinar. And my goal for this is really to inspire other riders to become coaches and to inspire other coaches to be better coaches by learning with each other. So to kickstart, if you have any questions along the way, please raise your hand, jump in, and I will get everyone introduced. So for the panelists, some of them could not make it tonight. So they are sorry about that. Just other things came up. But to start, I wanted to introduce Lucinda. So you can take the floor, introduce yourselves, and then we'll go to Kevin and then myself.
Okay. Oh, I have to go first. Okay. I'm Lucinda, and I coach for Shred Sisters out of Kimberley, BC. I also used to live in Golden, and so I know Maggie slightly through Shred Sisters. But yeah, so I'm mostly teaching Kimberley now. I'm still doing some courses in Golden because we're not super far apart. I only really been coaching. This will be my second season, so I really like. But I think since last year, like kind of fall, I was like felt like I was ready to take my Level 2. So yeah, just made it happen as soon as the course came available. And what else would you like me to say, Vanessa? Or just we're not like rambling here.
Like, what's your favorite part of riding / coaching?
I think, well, I mean, what inspired me to take my Level 2 is so I could coach at a higher level. I mean, I think jumps and drops are definitely my favorite thing to do and my strong points in riding. And I also just find, like, as you're teaching intermediate and downhill courses, like it kind of gets into that gray area of Level 2. So, and it's because it's something I enjoy. I think that's why I want to take it. And what I love about coaching is just watching people progress and like put the pieces together and just develop that understanding. Being able to facilitate understanding for them, I think, is like super inspiring. And then also being able to coach things that I love, especially now being able to do it at a higher level is definitely pretty good feeling. So, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, Kevin, you want to?
Yeah, my name is Kevin. I live in Kelowna, and I relocated here from Ontario a couple of years ago. I started doing a little bit of coaching in Kingston, Ontario, with a club there, and then when I moved here, so 2 years ago, I was doing some volunteering with Elevation Outdoors, which is a really cool program in Kelowna. I think it's a very unique program that provides opportunities for kids that just wouldn't have, like, really just wouldn't have access at all. So really cool program. And when I was volunteering, I ran a couple of nights that had certified coaches, and I was like, oh, I love teaching this, and ended up going to Whistler and doing my Level 1 and loved that. Love the, whether it's PMBIA specific or not, but just taking a coaching course and developing your own skills. I feel like, I don't know about everyone else here, how you started, but I started riding about in 2010. So, and we were hucking ourselves off of just ridiculous stuff. And I look back at some of the videos and stuff that we were doing, and I don't know how we're still alive, really. And, it turns out there's so much to learn. And I've spent a lot of my life coaching. I ran Whitewater Kayak School and coaching program. I'm a physiotherapist by profession, which involves a lot of teaching people lots of different things about it. So just naturally, and I had a horrible injury kayaking. I wrecked my shoulder, and mountain biking seems to be a position that my shoulder can handle. So I just transferred everything over. The parallels between steep creeking in a whitewater kayak and biking are phenomenal. Like I'm just blown away by it. Anyway, so much like kayaking, I think it's a wonderful sport to coach, because people that are out there, they've bought a bike, there's something in their head has brought them out to mountain bike on a trail out in the wilderness. And so really tends to be a very cool group of people. And I have to say, like, that's one of my favorite things about coaching is the people that you meet along the way, and the amount of learning that you can offer them. And I find when you're taking coaching courses, the amount that you learn and push yourself as well. And so just totally drawn to that whole sort of part of it, the people and the amount, like the degree of difference you can make. Because I think a big problem with mountain biking is a lot of people's intro to it, they go for a ride with friends and it's all well intentioned, but things can go wrong, and it turns, like I said, it turns out, right, there's a lot that you can teach people that instantly makes them actively in control of their bike and the decisions they're making, and makes it a completely different experience. And the opportunity to do that, is phenomenal and rare. And then with regard to level 2, I think you start thinking about what's some stuff that you want to develop, right? And the people that you're riding with, how do you push from there? And so that was awesome. So riding with people like Ross and other people your level is just super, it's super great opportunity for personal development, but also to help people at a higher level to gain. So anyways.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks,
Great.
Kevin, for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go next. So I'm Vanessa, and I fell in love with mountain biking as a little child. And when I was a teenager, I had amazing mentors in mountain bike coaching. And so that really instilled my passion of racing. And then through that, I found a love of coaching, and I was able to volunteer in different programs and contribute to the community in a way that I never thought I could through racing. And so I've really honed in on community and collaboration and just growing as a coach. And so I took my level 1, and then I was like, I got to jump into my level 2 after 2 to 3 seasons of riding, because I wanted to progress, but also meet other coaches that were better than me, so then I could learn from them. And when I can learn from better coaches, that just makes so many butterflies in my tummy. I'm like, this is awesome. And so from that inspiration, I also want to inspire other riders through that. And yeah, through Mountain.Coaches Collective, that's really a goal of mine and for the globe, of everyone to join in together as a collective. So that's about me in my riding. And I also want to introduce you to Ross. Thanks, Ross, for jumping on. We're introducing our panelists. So I'd love for you to share a snippet of your career and what you love about coaching, and then we'll go into the questions.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First off, thanks for humbled.
Breaking up a little there, Ross.
You're freezing.
The internet in my place is notoriously bad. Maybe I'll get.
Well, you get such a good deal on rent.
The internet here is about as inconsistent as my golf, as Kevin would attest to.
Let's not go.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right. Me. I don't really, as you know, I don't really like talking about myself, but I suppose I've been involved in the teaching of these, what I would like to call sensation sports, for 20 years now, through snowboarding and biking. And I've been living in Whistler for almost 20 years as well, actually, now. And I've witnessed the boom within the industry in the Seated Sky, and it's been pretty amazing to have gone from mountain biking for a job that for me was very, very part-time early on, to now me having to basically ask for time off. And yeah, I love the fact that I get to engage with lots of different people basically every single day. That's the really cool thing, is it's consistent but different almost every single day.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Sure.
Thanks, Ross.
Yeah.
You did great.
Yeah.
Oh, cheers.
He's a phenomenal coach. Amazing. Well, I want to kick it off with some questions to get it going. And then those attendees that are on, please feel free to jump in and ask questions for the panelists, and we'll get it going. So the first one is more geared to potentially Ross. In when is PMBI bringing more courses to the Western US?
I looked this one up. It depends which courses you're looking to get. There's lots of level 1s, I believe. If you've been able to access the PMBIA.org website, you can actually sort of customize your search area. And so there's quite often courses in especially Oregon and Bend. I think there is a tech course, I think, in June, but I think it's sold out. But I think there's other level 1s as well.
I may have some insight into that, actually, if folks are curious of like what's going on with that. So my name's Josh. I'm an instructor trainer with PMBI. I teach the most number of courses in the United States of any other course conductor, and so I teach the level
I knew I recognized you.
Yeah, how's it going, Ross?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I teach level 1s and the level 2 airs and their ride guides and the kids modules and all that sort of stuff. I'm East Coast based, so I kind of handle everything from like Bentonville, Arkansas to Vermont to North Carolina. So those are all the courses. The Western, so basically what happened is that with COVID, we had a backlog of courses because in the United States, because typically we relied on course conductors from Canada to come down to the States to teach courses. And of course, with COVID, for a few years, they couldn't travel. So then we're rapidly trying to online more, well, we're calling them trainers now, trainers to be able to teach those courses in the United States. Unfortunately, the process to become a trainer with PMBI takes many years. So we're a little behind in onlining people. So especially with the level 2 content in the Western states, there are no course providers or trainers, as we're calling them now, in the Western part of the United States that are trained to do that. And so we're relying on either instructors from Canada to travel, or for us from the East Coast. There's a couple of us from the East Coast that teach those. So yeah, so that's why there's a little bit of a lack of density in those courses in the Western United States at this point. So if anyone wants to take it, they either got to like go to Canada or come to Eastern US at this point.
Or if you want to host one, then I'm happy to come down, especially in the off season. In the spring and fall is usually a good time. I do quite enjoy that side of the course conducting.
Yeah.
For whoever asked that question, is there anywhere specific? Because obviously the west of America is quite a large area.
There wasn't, it just said Western US.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And she's not on the call tonight.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah, there should be some more next year for sure. So I know that there's a couple of folks in Colorado that are trainers that are apprenticing to teach the level 2 stuff this year, and so hopefully they'll be able to run those independently next year. And then Lev from Bend is also in that pipeline of apprenticing level 2 stuff, so he should be able to teach those independently soon.
Nice.
Tina was the one coach that asked, and she's from Colorado.
Yep.
So that's really cute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be some in Colorado soon. Yeah, Kevin is there teaching those, and so there should be some.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Josh and Ross, for
Yeah.
inserting your ideas into that.
Sorry to hijack the panel here with my answers.
No.
Step on Ross's toes here at the end.
You're the US guy. I'm just the random blow-in from Scotland.
It might be just because it's an appropriate time. I've actually had a few coaches that I've been interacting with in the last week or so who have been asking about level 2s in Eastern Canada. So specifically the Toronto to even Sudbury corridor.
Yeah. Oh, so they've been. So I think David. Would this be? So that would be in English. It's not in Quebec, obviously. That's in
English.
Yeah. I think the challenge we've had with Quebec is that venues sometimes can make it challenging.
Yeah.
Once we get up to that air and sort of tech level, the challenge that we kind of ideally need from the train needs to be up there. So I suppose some people maybe think that their trails have a lot of diversity to them, but sometimes it makes it difficult to run a consistent course.
There. Okay. That doesn't sound very hopeful.
I mean, I don't know the terrain, so the people who are doing the courses there, running the courses are a bit less. They're not full time, so yeah.
Okay.
I think David Gagnon would have a better idea of what's going on there.
Okay.
Okay.
All
awesome.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Other question that was put in was, what skills are necessary to take level 2 air? So,
well, the standard is for jumping is to be consistently showing good technique at clearing what we call a blue tabletop. So it's sort of a medium-sized tabletop jump, and that would probably be sort of like a 2-bike length tabletop, and in terms of drop off, around the sort of 4-foot drop size. And again, being able to show it's all about having the skills to consistently demonstrate good technique, and to not feel like that every time you roll in to do a demonstration that you're questioning whether or not you can do it really.
Reinvesting of sorts.
Yeah. And in terms of the on trail, we're starting to look for elements of performance in riding. Level 1 is a lot based around that control on up to a blue technical trail. But once we get to that level 2 tier of instruction, we're looking that you can it's potentially add a bit of performance, create a bit of speed here and there. But because we have the 4-tier system, it's still not that advanced. We're ultimately looking to train instructors to teach people how to jump for the first time. We're not asking you to show scrubs and whips and things like that.
So like at that level, at that level of like scrubs and like, where would that be along?
That's level 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's the and for anyone who's maybe curious, the level 4 I would put as the sort of career coach, high level sort of athlete development, like high elite youth development kind of level.
Yeah, and then I guess the other half of the standard for level 2, there's the riding standard, but the teaching standard is certainly equally as important. And so being able to, it's actually a lot of, in my experience anyway, a lot of people make it or do fine with the riding standard, but aren't polished enough with their teaching to be able to pass the level 2 teaching standard. And so that's being able to use the PMBIA models and teach a nice coherent lesson that's really dialed in with good consistent delivery of the structure and risk management and, you know, our guiding skills, and you have it all make sense and applied in the correct terrain, and like, you know, all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, you know, consistent means that there are some mistakes being made, but it requires like a lot of teaching experience and to feel comfortable in teaching at the level 2 standard. So it's not something where you could really take the level 1 course having no previous coaching experience, and then immediately take the level 2 course with no additional or very little, you know, only coaching a few times a year, and then expect to be able to pass the level 2 teaching standard unless you had some kind of other teaching experience, like teaching kayaking or skiing or something like that. So
Yeah.
Sounds like Kevin right there.
From a coach's, like a recent graduate's perspective, I would just expand on Josh's comment about the teaching. I think that the difference there is in level 1, I felt like you were provided with a little bit more concrete, you know, salient, kind of usable information to then, you know, repeat and you know, and deliver, right? Whereas in the level 2, you might find yourself problem solving a little bit more in terms of, you know, again, not in terms of figuring out super duper advanced stuff. It is more advanced teaching, but maybe less spoon fed and have to figure out use of terrain, and it's the part that I found the most challenging about it and the most rewarding, like the most useful. You know, and maybe that varies across instructors. I'm not sure. I only have experience, you know, that I had, but definitely being prepared to maybe draw on some of your own experience and maybe some of what you've, you know, paid attention to figure things out along the way a bit more. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd say, Kara, I think, and just to echo that, I think if we think about level 1, it's about learning the foundations to good teaching, and then we challenge, and hopefully once you get to the level 2, all that stuff is basically second nature. Like, you have good class management, you're able to explain in a really simple, concise way, you're able to work through an idea progression. And then there's a lot more problem solving to how to challenge more experienced riders, or how to sort of maybe even fix long-standing challenges that riders had, and change movement patterns. And that takes a lot more of a nuanced approach. There's less of a sort of, there's more potential lessons that can be done. And therefore, like you said, Kevin, we don't kind of have as many sort of canned lessons. There's a lot more problem solving.
Yeah, and like I can speak into that as well. I was in my, like, I've completed 2 seasons of like really full-time coaching, and the coaching part, I think, is so important. And the more time on the bike and with students will better prepare you in success of delivering like super simple mechanisms of techniques. And I think that like the 2 seasons was like the perfect timing for myself. And I think like going into that challenge question that like Kevin said, one other person had a question about like what parts of the course did you find challenging and why? And like initially, level 1 was like very like an ingredient book. And so it was like spoon fed, like Kevin said, but then in level 2, you had to be creative. And so like finding people to work with to come up with creative solutions, I think was a huge part of that. And like when Ross taught our course in the evenings, like some of the students, we would gather and be like, okay, what would you in this situation or that scenario? And so it was a lot of like brainstorming and being creative, and how to deliver something with like a fun manner as well, and not so serious. Yeah.
I think like everyone's alluded to, you might find yourself coaching, depending on your own riding and experience, but you might find yourself coaching like level 1. I think you're really confident teaching people how to mountain bike, you know, whereas in level 2, you might find yourself with more experienced riders that have long, and like Ross said, specifically long-standing patterns that I that's what I envision with level 2 is a really big application is identifying those habits or those long-standing patterns and providing alternative solutions that are based on an understanding that you gain from that level. From at that level, of course, there's lots more to get for sure, but it's a new kind of understanding where you can talk to someone who's been biking for years maybe and try to change a pattern. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
Shannon or Jen or Maggie, right? Josh, like what questions come to mind that we're happy to help and answer?
I have a question. Like for you guys, like what would most common like example of changing a pattern for someone who's been riding a long time and is in the level 2 situation? Like could you give an example? Like I get what you're saying. I'm just curious, like when you say getting creative and that, what you mean?
Well, I guess I could answer that. So probably the most common pattern that I see in just simply positioning on the bike is the sequencing of articulation of your body. So typically a lot of people, when they try and get low, they'll initiate with a little bit of a bend of the knee and the ankle before any bow happens. And then what that does is say you get pushed by the terrain or loaded by the berm, that will sort of push you back and take a little bit of traction off the front wheel. Whereas if you start getting a little lower with essentially a little bit of a bow first, then that helps ensure that you've got good amount of pressure on the front wheel for front end traction for cornering. But if you're so used to and ingrained to just initiating by little flex of the knee so the hips dropping down, then that's all you know. So you have to kind of, well, first off, it can be quite subtle. So being able to see that that's what's happening. And then coming up with solutions like on the course, I think what we did was or maybe it was actually the tech course. Some of these things I do different, and we actually ran some corners with our seats high, because when you have your seat high, you can't squat your hips down. And so the only way of you improving getting a little bit lower is to with the hinge move. So you're basically problem solving by just isolating that hinge move in doing that.
Yeah.
And the message isn't, oh, guess what? Let's ride with our seats up from now on. It's let's initiate with that move.
Yeah,
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that's a super common one. Like people kind of a lot of knee bends. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks.
And one other little thing I ask people to try and do is, and I've been trying to maybe experiment with this by putting like a bright colored sticker on your top cap, is when you're cornering in, say, a flat corner, in your peripherals beneath you, you shouldn't be able to see your stem. But if you are back at all, you will.
Oh, okay. So you shouldn't be able to see it if you're...
Yeah. But obviously you're not trying to see it. But you can even do a test right here where you can look forward and then like move your fingers, and you can kind of be aware of your fingers moving. But then there's a point where they disappear, but your fingers are still moving.
Okay. So like as your hands are on the bars, you're just wiggling them?
Well, no, this is statically, but I'm experimenting with like seeing if I can put like bright tape on someone's like top cap. And that's a way that then a student can like know themselves when they're in a good spot, because that self-awareness is a crucial part of how to make changes. We don't really want someone to always have to require someone to tell you something. That's not fun. So
yeah. Shannon,
anything to add, Josh? Or
well, I that's that. Yeah, I would echo that. That's the most common thing that I correct. Even like advanced riders, like I'll have like quite high level, national level downhill racers show up for a lesson or something, and that may be their initial feedback is that they're too far back on the bike too often. But maybe more holistically, we could think about like, what does a really beginner rider really need? What do they really need to be successful? And really, like, we're trying to teach them stability. So we're oftentimes those riders like have one good position, which is quite low and centered to feel stable so that they can be successful. And then as we move more into trying to move a rider from more intermediate to advanced level riding, then they need to be much more dynamic. And most of the time they actually need to be taller way more of the time. So be able to stack their bones and more straight, their joints, like their knee joints, like being more straight more of the time. So still hinging at the waist and bending the elbows and that sort of thing, but when they need to. But anyway, but being more dynamic in all different planes. I guess that's a difference in from the level 2 is like level 1, we're trying to like get beginner riders to like be successful in a very basic way, and then level 2 stuff is really about like getting intermediate to advanced level riders more dynamic and how they can be more strategic about how and where to move their body and to be able to be stronger and handle bigger amplitude of the trail and move the bike more dynamically. So I don't know if that helps, but
yeah, no, thanks, Josh. If another question that popped up was, what was the funnest part of the level 2 air course? Lucinda, you wanna?
Well, I think everybody knows what the funnest part was. Dude, like being able to session the jumps was like, I think that was the highlight for me. It was super sick. Drops were fun. And I think like those are the type of skills. It's just like the more you do them, it's just like the more, even if it's something you're comfortable with, like being able to like session stuff a bunch is like how you get comfortable, and then you can like make small changes and whatnot and see. It's just like a good way to build confidence like at any level. So I think everybody had fun, right, Kevin?
Yeah. It's just a fun course. I mean, you're out there, the jumping and the drops were definitely like the fun part. Yeah. Ironically, probably not the hardest part of it.
Definitely
Still
not the
hard.
hardest.
Jumping obviously has, huge progressions available, but and just going through it with everybody that was there and struggling through it. I mean, we were very lucky to have Ross. I think the way that he runs the course, there's a lot of generating what he calls self-awareness, and struggling through that with everybody was, just in problem solving was really fun, and seeing the attitude. But definitely the jumping and the drops were the funnest part. And for me, the best part was probably this notion of breaking down. It's just a way to think about your coaching in a skill-based manner, where I felt really equipped after that to take a student's goal and really look at, okay, what is this person doing and where are they on this? The model that's presented makes you really think about where are they and what are they doing, and what are one or two things that we can give them that will make their riding or their performance at that skill a little bit more consistent, a little bit more correct, a little bit more comfortable, right? And which is a totally different approach. Like, so if someone wants to work really hard on cornering or jumps, you can teach them, I learned this, you can focus a lesson on braking, and all of a sudden they're going to come out of it feeling like the cornering's better because you worked on braking. And that concept really came across and made teaching more fun, to be honest, because it's just a cool way to approach it. You always feel like you've got this toolbox now of ways to approach problems and figure out little things that people can do to improve their feeling or their performance through that skill. And that, from a coaching and learning point of view, that made coaching more fun, for sure.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Kevin and Lucinda. And yeah, I think like we all echo that as well. And I think from my perspective, I don't know if I'm like an emotional person. I think I am, but like at the end, I secretly cried inside of like, I can't believe I did this. Like it was just, it was such a rewarding feeling of like, we were on the bike for like 7 hours a day, 4 days straight. And like so much prep work went into it, like your time, your effort, and like the community that was like around you was so encouraging and impactful. And it was like very overwhelming, I found, of like, we did this. And like not everyone passes, but at the end of the day, like everyone was so supportive of every rider. And so like that did bring tears to me. I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. And like people that I don't know, like don't want to coach, but want to progress in their riding, like it's another great tool just to be a part of it in another capacity. With like from my experience.
Yeah, I think we definitely got lucky with like a really good crew. It made it easy to like, yeah, just not like having weaknesses and stuff wasn't like, oh God, like everyone's watching me or anything. Like I never really felt like that. Like when I was screwing things up, like it was nice. Like it felt fine. Like I could just keep trying and like just try to do my best and like just try to do it properly without like the pressure. Like even though everybody was watching, I didn't feel like that. Like I didn't feel like it was a problem that everybody was watching me. So
Yeah.
So we're about to wrap up, but before we do, I'd love to like open up the deck to see if anyone else has questions for us, or if you want to learn more about who we are as individuals or want coaching, because we're all around the world. You can pop in your information in the chat if you're interested and get connected from here on out with this webinar.
I have a quick question. When you're doing the course and you're like with the level 1, you're kind of, you know, pretending to be the students and stuff. So is that the same? Like, is it hard to try to teach jumps and drops to people in your group who already know how to do jumps and drops? Like, how do you guys manage that during the course? Just out of curiosity.
Maybe let Ross or Josh answer the first part of it. We can give some perspective on it if you want.
Yeah, it's a really similar.
Oh, go ahead. Go.
I was just going to say that it's really similar to the level 1 in the way.
No, you go ahead, Josh.
That you're each other's students, right? So, you know, and then. You know, there is definitely some rider development that's happening during the course for the course candidates, and so you know, but you know, we also insert ourselves into the mix sometimes to be able to do things incorrectly, for you to practice your analysis skills and be able to give feedback, and then also give assignments to the other course candidates to do something specific that maybe you catch up on, just so you can practice your analysis skills. But yeah, that is definitely probably a weakness of like practice teaching with people who already know how to do it, is that, you know, you don't have as much like real world analysis and feedback to give. So you know, that's something that, you know, you get the structure right, and then that's something you can work on as you start teaching in person.
Yeah,
cool. Well, thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to add was that I just realized, Ross. Oh, go ahead.
All right. I was going to say the scope of what is possible, though, with the content that we cover from level 2 up is quite vast, actually. So I tried to get everyone on the group to sort of treat everyone that they were teaching as genuine students, because, and I joke that none of us are winning World Cups, so we have room to grow. So, and you know, yeah, they're not making sort of large errors within position, but that's the other thing to consider at the kind of level 2 and up level, is that you're not always looking for what someone's doing quote unquote wrong. but you're actually looking for, well, how can I take one example of what Josh talked about earlier about a rider who appears quite stable and on the bike, but how can we elevate their riding and give a bit more playfulness to what they can do and open up some mobility and dynamic riding to them from what already was actually a relatively good picture.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I just wanted to say that, and yeah, I recognized your voice from the podcast. I was like, oh, it's that guy. All right. Okay, I'm gonna.
Me or Josh?
Ross or Josh?
I don't know, Ross. Not.
Because I've not been on a podcast to my knowledge.
It's Paul.
Oh,
Yeah, Shannon,
I guess
thinking about
Josh and I could
yeah.
probably pretend to be Christian and Paul, but
you sound just like him. Am I? I thought you were him.
oh
Different guy.
no, Paul. I guess Paul and I do have a British accent, but we do quite speak a little bit differently.
I don't know that.
But I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Josh, were you hanging out with Paul last week?
Yeah, we just hosted the USA trainers camp here. So all the course conductors of PMBIA courses here, and we're here in North Carolina for the week training. And so yeah, we got to learn from Paul and from Christian all week, and so that was good times. We ate lots of donuts as well. It was good.
Yeah, he was telling me about that. Sounds like there's a lot of cool little refinements going on.
Yeah, some updates to some of the course like structure too, so that's cool.
It sounds like there might be a group trip down our way. Josh, yeah, we're all down for that.
Yeah, you are welcome anytime. I put my company's web address in the chat there, but yeah, you're welcome to come shadow laying lessons here anytime. I'm teaching full time year round here, and so it is a little more thin in the winter, but I'm still teaching a few times a week during the winter here when the weather allows, and so yeah, you're welcome anytime. Come on down this way, and then I've got a few staff that work for me here as well, so we've got plenty going on. And the riding's fantastic. Why wouldn't you?
I have a quick coaching question for either of you. The updates that happened, because this came up a bit in discussion on our course too, and it's really cool to hear that things are being analyzed and refined, and that's awesome. How do we, as coaches, have access to these updates prior to taking our next recert or module, or how will that be disseminated?
Well, they're really all the reference guide is currently like almost fully updated, and it's pretty big update with more modern photographs, some pretty just rad more graphics as well, human centric sort of learning principles, and it's more just like as a member of the association you get access to the reference guide and all the updated materials when they're put out.
Okay.
I think the reference guide is due to get rolled out. The new updated reference guide should get rolled out the end of the spring, I believe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it'll just be in your profile, in the resources section of your profile on the website once that gets going. Yeah, I mean, as you all know, the website is they've launched a new website, and it's functional but not I would say not like polished, and so they're working really hard with updates coming for the website as well. That'll be more content, but then also smoother and more and everything there. So thanks for everyone for being patient with that. It's a bit clunky at the moment, so but we're trying to work through that.
All right. Any other last questions? Ride bikes, have fun, coach lots. Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Lucinda and Kevin, Ross, for joining as a panelist, and for Bryce and Josh and Jen and Maggie and Shannon for joining and bringing an insight for this webinar. So I'm super grateful and appreciative that you've taken the time to inform other coaches or other potential coaches in and around the globe. And so thank you. Like, this means a lot. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you for putting it on.
Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for organizing.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for letting me crash the party here. And it's helpful for me to hear
Yeah.
from participants after their course. Certainly Ross presents a really fantastic product. So just being able to learn, as I'm developing my ability to teach these courses, it's fantastic to hear from folks as they've taken them to kind of what your takeaways are and how it affected you and your successes on it. So that's been helpful for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the way you guys position the writing and teaching standards, the level of experience, the suggestions that you're putting out there to anyone who's on this call that's a prospective participant in a level 2 or higher course, I think it's really accurate. Like, I think you've nailed it pretty well. I don't think it's something that you should jump from your level 1 and go straight into at all. I think I think you're spot on with what PMBIA has suggested for going in, and not overdoing it, but just I think you nailed it, and it's a pretty accurate representation when you go in.
Yeah.
Got freezing.
Ross,
The
you're
other
in
thing to consider as well is we do have the 2-day module, which is there as a way of. Oh,
Yeah.
Is that working now? Is it working now?
Yeah. How many of you that just took this? Yeah, how many of you that just took this air course did the module beforehand, or did you jump straight to the?
I didn't, but I can't say that I feel like it would be a bad idea. Definitely, I'm thinking if you feel any doubts about the experience maybe that you've drawn up to that point, maybe that's making you question whether you want to do it, or you're writing, I think that would be a great way to check in. I really do. I think that would be a great way to prepare, and I would say that.
The other thing to consider as well is depends on your goal. The thing I would say is I'm always quite kind of impressed by how many people sign up for the course who genuinely actually, and this is primarily level 1, who genuinely say, "Oh, I'm not going to go teaching. I just want to learn how to improve my writing." If the goal passing, it's just going and learning, then you learn a ton. You get challenged, and but yeah, if as we talked about in the course, I think always good to have the goal, not the expectation. But if you go and expect that you should have to pass, that's not an ideal mindset. But the module is there as a way of potentially giving a little bit of an experience to people who are unsure, and it's only a 2-day commitment, but you get a ton of benefit doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an awesome, like I would sum up by saying it's an amazing course, bang for the buck, like value, whatever your goals are going into it. I think it would be very hard to come out unless it was based on your own maybe attitude going in. You need to go in with a good attitude. But I think bang for the buck. I've done a lot of courses in other areas of outdoor adventure and in my physio career, a lot of courses, and not all of them are good value. It's an amazing value, that course, hands down. I would argue that with anybody 100%. Like, I felt so I felt just like every single minute that I invested in it and dollar was more than worth it, for sure. So
Yeah.
Hard to come away from that course feeling disappointed unless your expectations were sort of unrealistic.
Yeah, I would say it's like the gold standard of mountain bike coaching.
In just coaching, like there's a lot in there. It's really impressive. I mean, we got Ross, so I don't feel lucky that we get Ross. But Josh,
Vanessa, you are aware? You are aware that that's the new tagline, Vanessa? Or did you know that, or have you just said that? Did you know that?
It is. I did.
You had some inside knowledge.
Hold on, it's like, is it on the website yet?
That's part of the new reference guide. The new reference guide is going to have a lot of black and gold in there.
Well,
As well as
that
the
was
new course conductor uniform, or course trainer uniform.
Awesome.
Well, there you have.
I'll tell Paul that you came to that conclusion on your own.
Yeah. Well, and honestly,
Good
it
job,
really
Vanessa.
plays what, like Kevin said, right? Like that, if people are afraid to take or has reservations to take level 2, like my experience with like Ross and like the team, like they really carried us through in an independent way, but made us feel secure. Like, you got this. And like, it was up to us to believe in ourselves to achieve what we want to get in and like through that course. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. I have to jet off. But yeah, thanks for the call. Good to have Josh on here as well.
Yeah.
And I will, if those that are interested, because this is recorded, as mentioned in the beginning, so I can send this recording to you all, so you have it for you to either share or just have it as a keepsake. So I'm more than happy to send that to you. So
maybe I could send it to my mom.
Thanks for organizing, Vanessa. And
Yeah.
thanks, Josh and Ross. That's nice to have you guys here.